happen to agree with the route that Blizzard is going with the Covenants in Shadowlands. I watch WoW videos or WoW news coverage, and I get a lot of my information from like Bellular or Preach for upcoming WoW things. And I find that I actually disagree with them a lot on that Covenants should be swappable like talents. I say that because it's just because a talent build out or the gear build out or even the spec of a particular class is mathematically the best and that's what you should be if you want to be the most competitive, that's not actually the best argument. That really only works for maybe the top 5-10% at the most of the player base, and that you would want to be the absolute best talented, best geared. You want all the right gems, all the right enchantments on your gear. That's not what the average player base would actually go to. And it's not that we wouldn't like look up what is the best talents or find out or listen to, and that it also, a lot of what is actually best for that player's character involves a lot from that player. So to kind of just separate the player itself from the character is a bit counterintuitive. And that is that just because a specific spec and a specific covenant and a specific talent build with these specific enchantments and this specific legendary and these specific soulbinds are the best, and this is what you should be if you want to perform at the most optimal and most efficient way that this character can be, then this is what you have to do. But that's not, it's far more nuanced than that. So if you are playing a druid and you are Resto, and these are the talents that Icy Veins or Wowhead is saying, because these are the best talents that you are going to get to get you through almost any situation. And this is the best covenant for Resto, and this is the best soulbind setup. These are the best gems to put in the soulbind. These are the type of gems and enchants you want to get because this is your best secondary stat. If you do all that, but all that kind of rubs against the actual player's ability, the player's skill set, or just even how that player plays the character, then you could be doing more harm to the actual raid or group that you're in, because you're trying to play optimally based on what the mathematics say you should play, without considering that this is how you play, and actually playing in the most optimal fashion based on the math will actually result in a much poorer performance for you as a player, because this build that you are going for doesn't fit how you actually play the game, or how you want to play the game, or how you are even capable of playing the game. So maybe taking something that is considered suboptimal and playing that is actually more efficient for you as a character than playing what the math people are saying you should play. Now, this also affects covenants in the same way. Because if you're telling somebody on, say, the first boss fight in Cathrall Denathrius, that if you are still a Resto Druid, this is the covenant you want, because the ability that this covenant gives is the best ability for this fight, and in this covenant you want to be this soulbind, and this is the layout you want, but you are not good at using that ability from that soulbind because you don't like it, you may not understand how that ability really interacts with your other abilities, how to use that ability to its fullest potential, or simply you may forget to even use the ability. That is a very real possibility. But people are telling you this is the covenant you want, and because you are not locked to a different covenant, there's an expectation there that you will switch back and forth in that regard. Well, now you're doing more harm because you are playing what is considered optimal, but you forgot to use your ability. You're not using the ability properly. So instead of playing Venthyr, which is not as good for the first boss in that raid instance, but works better for how you play, and you remember to use it, and you know how that ability interacts with others, and you can use that ability optimally based on how you are talented and geared. That works better for raids overall. And this is just, if you are not trying to be one of the top 100 guilds that kill the next end raid boss on Mythic, it works out better for you to do this than to simply say that I'm going to follow this kind of spreadsheet build of how this character should play, because that is how I'm being told it should play by people who have sat down and crunched the numbers and have done the math and have done all this testing. And instead of simply saying, I don't like how this ability works, I either don't understand it, I forget to use it, it doesn't interact well with other abilities, to my knowledge, I'm having issues with this. Instead of playing something that actually fits your playstyle, you are forced into something now that is considered optimal. But if things are locked behind a 1 week period, people aren't going to be upset at you for not wanting to play what is optimal. So in a way, it could be a good thing to have these things locked behind a certain amount of time, because the next fight, your ability that meant their ability that you really like could be best on the next fight. I think they're right that people want to be optimal for every fight in every situation, but what is optimal in every fight in every situation for each individual player in each individual class in their relative specs matters greatly based on the player themselves. It's the same thing that if you were to take another person that plays Resto Druid, who is a really good Resto Druid, but Resto Druid is not the best healer, but Guardian Druid is the best tank in the game, that doesn't mean that you would ask that Resto Druid to play Guardian, because that Resto Druid could, be Twitter levels of garbage at Guardian. So you'd be better off bringing in a tank that's maybe Brewmaster is considered the worst tank that patch cycle. You might be better off bringing in somebody who's a really good Brewmaster instead of bringing in somebody who's subpar at playing Guardian Druid, even if Guardian Druid is best. So I do find myself disagreeing with a lot of what they say in this, and I think it is good that they're kind of locking them behind a 1 week period in that regard. And although I don't disagree that maybe the player power should be separated from the cosmetic rewards, because just because you like how the Venthyr ability plays, you may not like how the Venthyr cosmetics look. You might prefer to look like you're from Ardenweald, but you want the Venthyr ability. I think those should be separated and locked on their own positions. And I think that they definitely need to lock those player abilities to the specific specializations, not just the class itself. Because there are, to my knowledge, there are still a lot of abilities from the individual covenants that are really good for some specs in some of classes, but are really bad for others. So you are kind of locking that character into playing that specific spec without needing to, with them having to have a secondary character of the same class to get a different ability for another specialization. So in short, I agree with the route Blizzard is choosing, to where there is a way to change your covenant, but it's not just going in and swapping like a talent. I think Blizzard is actually right here. I think it is better for the individual player to be able to pick the covenant and the ability that actually fits their playstyle in a much better way than just trying to go for what is optimal. And so that's just what I was thinking. So make sure you guys follow me here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below, and go over and follow me on Twitch at Sayu Gaming, the same handle. All right, guys, thanks. Bye.